When Harleen Sidhu arrived at the province's downtown Vancouver studio for her head-of-the-class photo shoot, she came out of the change room wearing the very fabric of her identity.
This is for the undocumented. It was my mom's idea to kind of inherit a part of my culture for this article. I just cherish everything from my culture, and I respect and love my family.
That starts with her dad and mentor, Jay, who arrived on these shores as a child and helped lead North Surrey to the 1983 BC Boys AAA final.
My dad has a tape of it, and I have seen it. A lot of our moves are the same. Obviously, he taught me most of them. Our posture in games is the same. You probably couldn't even tell who was who.
She was the player in BC.
She was a Michael Jordan.
She has the MJ effect.
She was a fun player to watch.
You're looking at a phenom here.
I get to coach LeBron James, sign me up, I'm in.
The press breaker is the one that breaks that press. So you're feeling all that pressure. They're trying to cause a turnover. You're gonna stay composed and you're gonna try to find a way to beat it. And there's always a way to beat it. Like watching Harleen go into beast mode is just, it's a sight. Like it's crazy when she turns on this mode and she just kills everyone on the court. Like you just want to be there, you just want to see it. It's just beautiful, it's beautiful basketball. Dad, from the stands, I remember, he was like, Harleen, play harder, blah, blah, blah. Like he was saying something like, he was trying to get you like locked into beast mode. Remember how we used to do that sometimes? Yeah, like we would yell at you from the stands. We'd be like, Harleen, let's go, break the double, just do it, blah, blah, whatever. Finally, out of nowhere, you just like, grab the rebound and you're like, wah! You like turn and then your braid got stuck in your braces and you're just running with my braid in my mouth. With your hair stuck in your braces, like down the court. It was so funny. Oh, we had to call a timeout because I couldn't get it out. Oh my God. Yeah, you had to stop the play after that. You stopped your own momentum, but like, it was funny. I remember that. Running down the court with hair in my mouth. You were like, I couldn't get it out, the braid was stuck. You know, growing up here, there was a comfort level because there were a lot of South Asians in this community. You go out there, there's a sense of comfort, like you feel like you're home.
There's a passion that the South Asian community has for the game that is just, it's so tremendous to see.
Basketball is huge in the Upna and Indian community here, and I think it's actually gotten bigger. The quantity of good Indian players has grown like 4x probably when I was growing up.
The fact is, BC high school basketball was the pinnacle sport in all of British Columbia high school sports. Harleen's dad, he was quite a good ball player.
My dad played in high school. It's pretty cool stuff when you like listen to the stories.
You know, my brother, he said, hey, you should pick up basketball. You got good height. You're gonna love the game. So I played it. For us to be in Surrey at the time in the 70s, it wasn't that easy. So also to sort of retain your culture and religion, it made it a little bit more challenging, of course.
Atmosphere at that time was very, very different. It was sort of tough to break that barrier and be accepted as one of the other students.
Harleen was the first of the grandkids for my parents, and I remember the day she was born. It was snowing.
When she was born, I remember the nurse saying she's going to be a basketball star because she was, you know, long and pretty good weight size. So, but that's kind of like where everything just began.
Basketball wasn't fully introduced to me like right away from an early childhood, but I did get my first pair of basketball shoes when I was like 6 months old.
She definitely played in the front yard with her dad a lot, and the hoop is still there.
All those times we played out here, I played at full intensity with you guys.
Yeah.
I did not want to ease up.
I know.
Whether I'm defending you
Back
or
us
shooting.
Down.
So it was just to teach you guys how hard it can be if you're going to play up against a taller person or more skilled. So when you were like 7, 8 years old, 10 years old, doing the post moves.
Yeah,
You're
I
playing.
remember those. I remember
Yeah.
those. I remember like the evening shoot arounds.
Yeah.
Like the one picture that we have, me in my bucket hat, taking a shot here. All of my time was either in a classroom, it was at home, or it was in a gym.
I don't even remember anything else of my childhood except basketball.
When I went to Tulsa School, that's where I first started off, Michelle Kelly was the coach that basically brought me on to the team.
Michelle Kelly is an awesome teacher and a coach at Tulsa School. She actually played for Canada in softball. She represented Canada in the Olympics.
I went into a grade 3 class, and there was one girl that stood out above them all because she was twice the size of everyone. And I said to her, I'm like, do you like basketball? She goes, well, I don't play yet, but I'm gonna play when I grow up, just like my daddy. And I was like, I need to start working on this girl now.
And before I knew it, I was playing with the grade 8 girls. And when I realized that I could actually compete with girls who were 4 years older than me, I thought, okay, like maybe I could do this.
First of all, she's a very opposing, tall, big girl. And on top of that, she's very skilled.
At 12, I think I was already like 5'10". So I basically peaked at grade 7.
So Michelle and I, she would say they're gonna ask for ID, and she always had the ID anyways. And all of a sudden, the other coach, well, you can't have a grade 8 or whatever grade 9 kid playing. And Michelle's like, well, no, she's grade 6. So he wouldn't believe her.
It was my grade 6 year at Tulsa School, and I was playing with the grade 8 team, and we made a run that year. We made such an amazing run that it was unexpected to a lot of people, because we'd walk into a gym and you could feel that people probably didn't take us seriously, because we had our bandanas on, and some of us were playing in pants. Like that was just part of our culture. Like that's just how it was.
You would get stares, and all of us with our full hair and pants or whatever, honoring our religion.
I would say everybody to our face was very politically correct.
People just look at you because back then you would only have maybe 1 or 2 South Asians on a team full of, white people, or that's as much as you would see. You would never see a full girls team of South Asians, like just 100%.
We were an afterthought all the time. I coached with a chip on my shoulder, and I think it sort of melted down onto the girls as well, because I was really offended. I was actually ashamed to be Caucasian at that point, to be honest.
So even in games, I remember I got called like a Paki once, and it's just, you hear that, and some people are threatened by how great you are, and like the team is just so confident. I remember being so excited that she was gonna move from Tulsa School to Princess Margaret, like be in the public school sector and like compete on this new level. Like we were all really excited to see what she was gonna do.
For my grade 8 tryouts at PM, I already knew I was gonna make it. And it's not to say it's because my uncle was the coach. It's just I just knew I was really good.
When the tryouts came, half of the school was in the gym. They just wanted to be part of that team.
I could see how much their game elevated because Harleen was there.
I still, even in grade 8, towered over the rest of my teammates. So when I would walk into the gym, people would stare and be like, oh, who's that? Because I was probably about 6 feet at that time.
I was just there 24/7 at the practices. Like I would be at the concession stand or whatever I could do to just be close to this.
Harleen, she missed her layup, but there was a foul on and then so then she comes back, she gets the ball, and she gets the ball, she shoots and she scores, and then she gets fouls, and oh man, it was sweet, yeah.
I said, I wonder how Harleen would stand up to grade 12s.
It wasn't really to go in to win a game, but just to get in some minutes and play with the senior team.
There was some really foggy kind of rules about how many games you could play, or else they lost track of how many games a younger player, for example, a grade 8 Harleen Sidhu, could play with her senior girls team.
The whole rule is basically, it's for a specific purpose. And that's like taking your junior players, the top ones, and playing at a higher level to help them get into playoffs. Harleen did not help their senior team get into playoffs because they were still 0-16 after that game.
My uncle, our coach at the time, sits us all down and says, essentially he just kind of broke the news and said that somebody complained and we've been disqualified for the remainder of the season and all of our wins have been forfeited. And this is right before going into playoffs. And all of us just basically started crying because here we are being told that we can't play the rest of the season. For me, I mean, I'm personally feeling it because I had played too many minutes.
So it's gut-wrenching to see your kids go through that. But I felt sorry for the other kids as well. I'm thinking, geez, you know, they rely on Harleen so much, and how are they gonna feel that, hey, is she to blame all this? And, you know, do they put the weight on her shoulder? Like, it was a lot for them.
We're talking about a grade 8 kid that just wants to play basketball, and she had nothing to do with this.
How can someone go to this length to want to disqualify a grade 8 girls basketball team? Do they not like me? Like, do they not want me to play? Like, what? And then those thoughts started going through my mind, and then my competitive side started to come out. So, okay, like, they don't want me to play because they know we're good.
Didn't want to just sit back and accept it because we knew it wasn't correct.
We went to the media, and the media was a huge help. And that's kind of where it blew up for me in terms of people knowing who I was. And that's kind of where my life took a turn. My main focus was to try to get reinstated. I just wanted to play. That was it.
It made the paper in the province for 3 or 4 days that week. It's funny because the stories got picked up on the national wire from the province and the Vancouver Sun, and I think ended up going across the country.
But it was just so sad that this poor girl, she's young at the time, she got chewed up in all this.
And then the Punjabi media got involved as well. And then they were there every single day for those few days until the start of the playoffs.
The Methil magazine. Okay, so this all started because of that whole grade 8 stuff that happened.
Mm-hmm.
When they tried to, ban me from playing.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I remember they sent like a huge package of questions to answer.
Yeah,
I remember sitting on that table over there answering these questions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what am I supposed to say?
Oh, who are your role models? My father.
Surprise, surprise.
And I have to say, it wasn't all positive. There's a lot of negative attention too.
And being a high-profile minority, if I was on the BC school sports side, now you got to be careful. Like, you know, this could really blow up in your face.
You lose focus. I think that's what happened. And you have to realize the impact on everyone. And you forget the kid, and that's not right. You forget the team, that's not right.
And I remember the day that we went to the courthouse, we were just about to enter the room to go and see the judge and basically, you know, plea our case. I think we got a phone call just before we were about to go in, and they said that we were reinstated and that we would be allowed to play our games, and we had all our wins from this season.
That was a major event in Harleen's life, something that affected us as a family.
For her to maybe I would be less emotional if I wasn't connected to her in family ways. Watching her go through that was tough.
I think at that point she did have a little bit of a target on her back in terms of, you know, Harleen Sidhu, you know, and I think she had to deal with that, you know, throughout her career. And I actually give her props for the way she kind of handles herself and the way she carries herself.
I think she's always watching her back after that.
I felt good about how we ended off the season, and I think it helped propel us to win the Surrey Championships that year.
So she came in at grade 10, and Miss Kelly had set the foundation for her. So it was nice that I could be there in her next part of her journey.
So I played senior when I was in grade 10. We made it to the provincials that year. Unfortunately, we lost on a buzzer beater in the first game. And so that kind of derailed us, and we didn't finish where we wanted to finish. But, you know, I look at that overall season, and we had some really good moments, and we had a really great year.
When she was in grade 11, I got asked to coach the high school team. So, and then I got introduced to her there. Actually, she was probably the reason why I did coach a team. It was a little bit like getting to have a chance to coach myself almost because of how much hype she had.
15-year-old Harleen at that time was thinking, yeah, no, I'm going to play this game as long as I possibly can. WNBA obviously was one of the main goals.
I just remember we were in the big gym and they were demoing a drill, I think.
Yeah.
And they asked you to demo, and I'm like, who's this person, right? Like, and you're the only girl there. So I'm like, man, maybe she's like really good, right? And then you do like a nice little shot fake jab, and then you went by, I can't remember who's playing defense on you, but you went by them. And then I just remember Pasha going, guys, you see this girl right here? She's making the WNBA.
Oh,
at that point, I'm like, man, like, who is this girl?
That was the first time you saw me?
That was the first time like I can actually like remember Harleen Sidhu and like seeing you.
At the end of my grade 11 year, I was being recruited heavily by Nebraska. The head coach at that time came to our house and had dinner here. My brother at the time was 4 or 5. He was really into karate, and he was doing karate classes. So my coach walks up the stairs, and she's just saying hello to everybody. And for some reason, we thought it would be really cool for him to show her, you know, his karate kicks. He gave her a really good kick in the knee.
Oh yeah, he's right there. The little culprit. I guess there's a little warm up for the head coach to, hey, okay, this is Surrey, and this is how tough our family is, and he was a good example to show her. So you gotta protect your knees.
You know, I realized how lucky I was of the support that I had, because there were a lot of other South Asian girls who didn't necessarily have that support, and so it was harder for them to come out to all the practices or even make it to certain games. I realized then how lucky and, you know, fortunate I was that my parents would come to every game, you know, hands down, 100% support in whatever I decided to do. In November, I think it was November 16th, if I remember correctly. And we were practicing, and we were doing some transition drill. I was crossing over on a defender, and I tripped over her feet.
This was completely just a fluke. This happening early on in the season, it was quiet in the gym. It was quiet. She landed funny on another player's foot and then ended up down on her knees.
And that impact from landing awkwardly on my left knee tore my PCL, which is the posterior cruciate ligaments.
You know, ACL we've heard about, but we never heard about the PCL.
Yeah.
So we didn't know.
It was, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen now? Do I have a career? Is my career over? Like, is this it for me? I remember coming home and just being completely devastated.
For her, she just did not know if she would be able to bounce back from that. And I really just saw that kind of like doubt of the unknown, because her whole life was basketball. Like, I'm gonna go far and I'm gonna do this. And that was something that was out of her control. Because I thought at that point it was over.
And she basically said she cried herself to sleep, I think is what she said to me. It was a pretty stirring quote to get from a young kid at that time, right?
Can I play college basketball? Can I still go and get a full ride scholarship to the States? Are teams gonna even want me now that they know that I have a partially torn ligament? All these thoughts were going through my mind.
Her personality and her talent was such a force of nature at that school. And when somebody that good gets hurt, you don't want to acknowledge it. You don't want to accept it.
I used to like pray for her all the time, like in games, before games, after games, to help like her heal. I just kept asking God, I was like, please just heal her, because I don't want to see her doubt herself like this, because I know that she's gonna do great things with basketball.
Going to physio every day and doing rehab with somebody new almost every day.
I used to drive her to Gastown for the 2-hour physio. Sit in the car, wait for those 2 hours, and bring her back to school, and she recovered. I'm telling you, she works hard at her craft.
At the end of the day, it's not really what happens to you, like it's how you handle it.
It wasn't just a phenom basketball player. It was a phenom female basketball player. It was a female Indian, Punjabi girl. So there's a lot going on, a lot riding. You want it to turn out right because you know what? This path is going to be blazed for all the right reason.
So the move to Nebraska was, it was full of emotions, I would say. My family came with me. They helped me get settled in.
I still remember that day, you know, when we left her in front of the health unit. Yeah, and I turned around and I just watched her standing there as we were driving off.
And I remember them driving away and I just like took a moment to just bawl my eyes out for a second and then I composed myself and went in and did my physical.
You want to shoot?
Was it hard for you when I committed and I had to leave?
Oh no, I was so thrilled. I was like, yes.
Not sad at all? Not even a little bit? Like,
no, not really.
Okay.
We grew up in a very tough city back then. There was no room for...
You missed me a little. Come on.
So I let your mom handle all the other departments.
I don't even know. Was mom sad?
Well,
you
she
guys
never said anything, but
you guys never showed it.
I just thought it was such a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
That first year was so difficult for her. We left her in August, and I remember getting an email in September. She goes, "Mom, I'm ready to come home. I don't belong here."
If you go to a place where you have people that have similarities, the transition a little bit easier. But you're going to a place where chances are you find anybody with similarities other than basketball are pretty slim. So all that is happening, and it's not an easy ask.
It was a big change, a big transition, you know, going from, you know, you're surrounded by a community here, a support system, and then all of a sudden you're in the Midwest, like by yourself.
It was a huge adjustment. It was a bit of a culture shock, obviously. You come from Newton, which is predominantly South Asian, and you go to Lincoln, Nebraska, which is the complete opposite.
You know, even Harleen's experience proves that there's so much more than just attaining that. It's what you do after that. And there's so much expectations. You're going into this whole new world of sports and culture of sports. So to be of a person of ethnic minority, step into something like that, yeah, you really got to be a strong character.
Luckily, with the sport of basketball, it kind of provides a distraction. It's big. College life is big. It was like a whole new world. I kind of just came out and like nobody really knew who I was, and I was a freshman, and everyone was like, "Oh, like that's the freshman. Like that's pretty cool. Like that's Harleen."
I'm here to tell you, everybody, I'm not usually this right, but Harleen Sidhu is not missing tonight.
When you hear your name on that speaker and you know the fans are going wild, like that's the most memorable experience. It's so cool.
And their fan base is second to none. But I always knew she was going to go NCAA, like without a doubt. I could probably tell you even as a grade 5 student because I had coached in the US.
And to actually make it to the NCAA tournament and get minutes in the NCAA tournament was pretty cool in itself. Flashing lights, music is loud, people are cheering, they call your name. I get goosebumps when I talk about it. It was a different kind of hype, for sure. I mean, I experienced hype the first year, but my second year was on a different level. It wasn't until the end of my second year, going into my third year, where I started to feel the pain coming back. I think surgery is my only option. So I basically finished off that season tearing my knee and my ligament more and more. I think by the time I actually got into the operating room, it was just like hanging by a thread at that point. It didn't look like I was going to be able to come back and play my 4th year at that time.
She didn't want to go back. She wouldn't unpack.
And ultimately, I decided that it would be the end of my career and that I was okay with where I was at. I graduated and I came back home thinking that my basketball career was over at that point. And little did I know that things would change once I was back home. Yeah, there's something about coming into like an empty gym with like half the lights on, and it just kind of gives you like a moment to reflect on everything that you've been through in this gym, and it's really surreal being back here.
Her return to UBC was storybook because, you know, you battle all the injuries that you had at Nebraska, and you decide you want to come back home.
And I was just so excited that she was coming to UBC. I think most siblings are probably like, oh my God, don't come to the same school as me. Like, just do your own thing. But I was so excited because I got to like watch her play again.
I knew Deb was very excited because she just loved Harleen. I just adored her just as a person. And Deb's just a great coach.
Everybody really loved having Harleen join our program and be a part of it for the 2 years she was here.
Nothing means more than that home opener.
But I think that's what she missed in Nebraska, was not, you know, having her family there, like familiar, you know, faces in the crowd.
So that's the mistake we made as parents. We made her too close to family. And then Michelle calls me because she knew Harleen was going to play. She goes, well, Jay, I'm bringing a busload of kids.
But all of a sudden I hear all these kids and they're screaming and they're cheering. And I look up and it's a ton of Tulsa School students and Michelle Kelly.
She is our family, and I wanted to inspire those kids because I saw talent there.
What a great surprise. They were just like yelling and they had all these signs, you know, with Harleen's name on it.
And after that, they were just like, Miss Kelly, we want to play like Harleen.
This is why I came back. Like, this was my reason right here. I don't know, something just took over me that game.
Harleen just lit up. She lit the court up. She had like 32 points and like a 14 rebounds. She was just on fire. She couldn't miss.
You know, Harleen, you know, in her younger years, maybe not so much at Nebraska, but she's used to being, you know, the one.
The fact that Harleen played in Nebraska, she comes back here and she actually dominates. That's what I like to see because then she's legit.
All my teammates were like, oh my God, did you see the tweet? Did you see the tweet? And I was like, what tweet? Like, I just came and sat down, I was taking my shoes off. They're like, Kelly Olynyk tweeted you. And I was like, what? So I went on my phone and sure enough, there was a tweet there. He said something along the lines of Harleen Sidhu can flat out play.
Good on Kelly because he's a BC boy.
And I thought, oh my gosh, this is, first of all, it's an NBA player. He's tweeting out to all these followers.
For him to be aware of Harleen and to want to support her and to be interested to follow and to see, you know, how she's performing, where she's at right now, and then to take the next step to actually let her know. I think it was really special. It shows that kind of connection within the basketball community.
That was like, when I first saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And sure enough, I was getting messages from everybody like, hey, Kelly Olynyk tweeted you. And that was the first time, the only time that an NBA player tweeted at me. And I definitely pinned that tweet on my Twitter page, so it's still there. Pretty packed. It was the Canada West Championship. We won that game by 1 point. And I remember that moment where I got the ball right at the end, the buzzer went, and we all just like ran to center court and celebrated center court. And it was after that moment where I ran straight to my dad and I climbed up the stairs there on our side where the bars are. And I kind of had to like reach over and he had to pull me up so I can give him a hug. That memory, I think, will stick with me for the rest of my life. And it was one of those moments where we kind of went full circle and kind of came back to like where it all started. It was fitting that I kind of ended it with my dad in that moment. That was probably the best way to finish off my career.
I think I was the first guy to play high school with a turban on. So that's my little story. But she's the first one to play Div 1.
I love to brag about her because, you know, how many people do you know that come out of Surrey, out of a small school that everybody said couldn't do it, out of a program that everybody kind of hated on, and how many times do you hear of a player going to the NCAA?
She's such a role model for these kids, and I'll bet you she impacted so many girls to play sports.
I could definitely see girls, you know, want to be like Harleen or whatever she says to do. You know, she's a perfect person to kind of teach the young people, especially girls.
Okay, so she didn't go on to have, you know, a great career at Nebraska the way she had planned, but I mean, she's inspired so many kids along the way just by not giving up.
For me, it's a dream come true that she actually married a guy from a gym.
So blessed.
From
so
a
blessed to have
gym.
Manny in our
Like,
family.
I can't ask for anything more.
When she decided to coach for the same academy that I was coaching at, I was helping out at that tryout, and it was just an hour I was supposed to be there.
That's essentially where we like officially met.
Harleen walks in, and at this point, I don't know if I should call it a crush, but it's like, you know, like I really admire her.
Oh my gosh. Actually, it's funny because he told me that he had seen me. I was just being introduced to like how the program works and that kind of stuff. And this was oddly enough at Princess Margaret.
She's very good looking, but like just the whole sense of her.
He told me that he had seen me, but he completely avoided me and didn't even bother saying hi.
You know, I have no game. And so she walks in and she's talking to the coaches and I'm staying away from the coaches. And then she took like a step back and then I went to the coaches and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna see you guys later. And then I went out.
As soon as his program was over, he just like beelined it out of the gym.
And I never said hi to her. I didn't say a word to her.
I guess he was too nervous to say hi at that point. We just started off as like really good friends.
And then after that, we just had a lot of those deep conversations about life, about basketball, and we just connected on a lot of things. And the reason that we can't say like this is the moment that we figured it out is because it was just like a really smooth and general progression. Once this kid came, like it's just a total different ball game, and all I can say is that it's a blessing and I'm grateful.
So that's the beauty of basketball. You can
Yeah.
get to the highest levels and meet all these. Imagine your feet were that small.
I know, it's hard to believe. Like,
Yeah, but
it's smaller than my hand.
you're about 1 month.
Yeah, they actually fit you. Your pinky must have bought these.
Yeah.
And you were 6 months old.
Yeah.
And then we put them on and like, oh my goodness, they fit. Yeah.
And then the same person bought them for Zayden. That's crazy. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Like 30 years later.
30 years later. Yeah. Now your son
I
has
know.
Nike shoes.
I know. Well, if I ever have a girl in the future, she'll be wearing these.
What is a press breaker? Well, you can go a lot of different ways with that. You're alleviating pressure. So you're countering the pressure that a team is putting on you, usually in the full court.
Calling somebody a press breaker is somebody who you know, can handle the ball probably in the crowd. He can deal with traps.
Press breaker. I was the press breaker when I played.
I was the press breaker.
And in a press break, there's always something that they have to give up. It's your job to find it.
She was the one that could break basically any press.
There was a lot of pressure, opposing pressure to stop her.
Here's a girl, came from a Surrey community, Indian girl, parents of immigrants, you know, and she made it all the way to Div 1. She broke the press. There was a press on her constantly. She's the press breaker.
This is for the undocumented developing in the
That sensitive issue, you want to get into that? You don't want me, man. I'm going to piss everybody off.
What are you going to try to do, the Bend It Like Beckham storyline? You know, like her parent, I'm like, I ain't going to work here. Jay groomed her to be a basketball player. You're not going to make a story up like her parents wanted her to make roti and all this kind of stuff, right? So.
You're both peak health, peak career. Who's winning in a one-on-one, Harleen or Manny?
I'm gonna say me. I'm competitive. I'd like to think that I win.
We're too competitive. If we have an argument, it's going to be like, okay, let's go to the court right now. Let's settle this once for all.
You got to get a picture when next time she does that, just so I can show people.
Differences in the tradition, we travel to survive. This is not no expedition. So what we missing?